Welcome to the Joomla optimization series, and to start things off we're going to be doing something that everybody always needs to do in any project, and that is validating your style sheets and your code in your XHTML documents. Very important, very basic, and very simple. The W3C has a wonderful validation service that we will be using to make sure that we use proper coding and strict coding in our documents. And the first one I'm going to do to demonstrate in our CSS validator is our CSS. And the validation service offers three great options. We can enter in the URL address, we can load the CSS file individually, or we can enter in the CSS in this box right here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick it through the load CSS file, and I'm going to find our CSS, check it, and it goes ahead and checks it, and you notice we have an error. And in our URL, which is this is where my CSS file is located, line 121, there's a parsing error, a stupid little mistake in other words, that is located in this CSS style, line 121. So if I open up Dreamweaver and I go down to line 121, which is right here, we have to look for the syntax error and parse error, and it's right there. The comma, I must have been thinking I was going to add another link to that. So knock that comma out because it didn't need to be there. And save it, and then we can go back to our validation service and let's try it again. And there's no errors, but you notice it says to work as intended, your CSS style sheet needs a correct document parse tree. This means you should use valid HTML. Well, excuse me. But this is an easy fix. As I'm kind of actually trying to run this through a local server, I can actually type in the URL, and I've set it up here. Actually, I think yep, it's that right there. So this is actually live on a website, and this is the best way to check your CSS files. And you check it, and it says, congratulations, this document validates as CSS. Well, that's a good thing. And then, of course, it gives you a little bit of a link here, and you can get this button right here to let people know that your document is valid CSS. Let me look at the CSS file again. And what I did, what my problem was, I used commas to separate these classes. We have a class here, a class here, and a class here, and I accidentally added a comma, which is not valid CSS. Or, for instance, it'll let you know if you forget your brackets here, and you left one off, it'll let you know that you need to put one there. And even down here to our colons, to not typing out the color all the way correctly, to just stupid things that we kind of forget to do all the time. And it'll point those out, which allows us to offer better service to our visitors. Okay, and the next step is validating our XHTML. So I'm going to tab over here to our W3C markup validation service for our HTML and XHTML. And it has the same three options: address, the local file, and then we can actually copy and paste it there. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and browse for it. It'll be easy. And we're just going to check it. And our results is that we passed validation. There isn't anything in here that's wrong. And again, we can get this link here to let everybody know that this is valid XHTML. And this would actually show errors. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up our HTML. Is if, for instance, I close this div out before it should, or I use depreciated values instead of like italics and bold, things that you're supposed to use in HTML. But I just closed this div out. You notice here div ID, and then I closed it, but then it's also closed here. So let's see what happens when I try to validate it. Again, we'll do file by upload and find our index.html file. I'm going to check it, and you'll notice that we have an error. And if you'll see below are the results checking the error. Line 12, the end tag for element div, which is not open. Well, in other words, we ended a tag when we shouldn't have ended a tag. And let's go back to our HTML. If you remember, we included this extra div ending here, which stopped this header div. So this tag right here is kind of left in limbo because what is it closing? It's not closing anything. Well, actually, I actually want to close it there. I don't want to close it here where I highlighted. So let's just go back to that, and that will remove this problem, and we'll have it validated. And that does it for our simple optimization for our XHTML and CSS. And remember to do that every time you're creating a CSS document or even some line of code for your XHTML document.